All right, guys, in today's lesson, we're going to go over an introduction to ecology. But before we do that, I kind of want to review characteristics of living things from yesterday. So let's just kind of go over them. I want you to think about it as I'm doing it too. I'm going to pick out the easy ones first. Let's start with this bird in the bottom left-hand corner. If he is eating that caterpillar, that's obviously nutrition. Okay, the next one, the baby going up to the old lady, that would be growth. Okay, this one here I feel like can be two things, so I wouldn't mark it wrong if you chose either one of those. Obviously the lizard can camouflage, but we have these in our area in North Carolina, and when he's on the deck or like other pieces of wood or side of the house, he can also be brown. So that is camouflage, which is an adaptation, but I think it could also be respond to the environment because his environment is what makes him change his color like that. Okay, up here, the top right-hand corner, this elephant here, that is obviously excretion. She's getting rid of a lot of waste there. Okay, this porcupine here right in the middle, those quills are actually something that it's born with to protect itself. So I would definitely choose adaptation for this one. The rabbit, jumping over that, that would be movement. And remember, that's the one that scientists argue about a lot. This one up here, this is actually, I meant to show it as reproduction, even though it's not typical of what you would imagine. These are called paramecium. They are protists that live in the water. And what they do is they copy their DNA, which is their stringy stuff on the inside here, and then they exchange it with one another. So because they have a partner, this could actually be better named as sexual reproduction. And then this one here, the mushroom, what I had intended there, which I think this one could be several also, but you see the little baby mushroom here. Mushrooms can reproduce sexually and asexually, so I have this here as asexual reproduction. Okay, but remember the most important characteristic is made of cells. And ask yourself if it can reproduce, and if it can't, then it definitely isn't a living thing. Okay, so let's move on to ecology, and I'm going to put the PDF of this up on Google Classroom so you don't have to worry about taking too many notes right at this time. Okay, so ecology is actually a branch of science, a branch of biology that deals with relationships that living things have with each other and their environment. So if you could look at the buffalo for a minute, okay, how does the buffalo have a relationship with the grass that he's in? Well, obviously he eats it, right? How about the tree? You probably wouldn't think of a buffalo having a relationship with a tree, but they do. He could crawl under it for shade. He could scratch up against it if he's got bugs bothering him, all kinds of things. Okay, how would he react to other buffalo? He could reproduce with them. He could fight with them. He could compete with them. Okay, so that's what ecology is about. Interactions with organisms with each other and with their environment. Okay, so before we move on, I want to do two new terms for you, and I hope they make sense. Biotic, the prefix bio means life. So biotic factors are anything in the world that is alive. So obviously that would be anything from the kingdoms. Plants, animals, protists, bacteria, fungi. Okay, anything that can do those characteristics that we studied yesterday. So the opposite of that, abiotic, are all the non-living things in the world. Now, I don't want you to necessarily think of things you can just see, like rocks and things like that. I want you to think about sometimes these things are invisible. The air you're breathing right now is an abiotic factor, and if you didn't have it, you wouldn't be alive. Okay, so also think about climate, like what temperature is an organism used to? That's an abiotic factor. Think about the salt in the ocean versus a freshwater lake. Okay, this includes temperature, rain, water, rocks, your carpet, you know what I mean? Anything that is non-living that affects something else. Okay, so the next 6 terms we're going to go over are these, and they are in order from the smallest to basically the largest. Okay, so for a species, it is one individual organism. And in order to be considered a species, you have to be able to breed with that same species. So this little guy here is called a capybara. He's only found like in Australia, New Zealand, places like that. he's related to beavers over here in the United States. So obviously this capybara can only mate with other capybara. So a species is one individual organism. Okay? Now, when you move up and you count all the capybara that are in one particular ecosystem, then that would be a population. Okay? So if we counted all the deer in Pamlico, or we counted all the dogs in a particular neighborhood, or we counted all the people in the United States, you know, the census is going on right now, right? That would be a population, but it can only be the same species in the same area. We can't count deer in North Carolina and deer in California. Okay, they have to be in the same habitat. All right, then moving up is a community. Like we think of communities like our neighborhoods and stuff. A community in terms of biology are all the living things that are in one area. So if you look at this community that I have up here, I have the capybara, I have the lemurs, I have the ferns. Okay, so it is all the living things in one particular area. The next one moving up is an ecosystem, and this is the first level that actually includes abiotic or non-living things. So this would include all the capybara, all the lemurs, all the ferns, all the trees, but also all the abiotic things. Okay, so the fact that this is a rainforest, the fact that it has a stream flowing through there, all right, the temperature of the area, all of those things. And ecosystems are actually studied probably the most in ecology because it's big enough where you can include a lot of things, but it's also small enough where you can study one particular area. Okay, keep moving up. Biomes. This is basically regions of the earth that have similar climates and similar communities. So for example, if we could be like Miss Frizzle and get on a magic school bus and head from desert to desert to desert to desert, you would see similar things, right? Very little rain, hot during the day, cold at night, sand, cacti, lizards, camels, okay? Just like if we mentioned a rainforest or a tundra, or saltwater community, or a deciduous forest like we live in. Okay, those are biomes. And then the final one is the largest one. It's biosphere, and it's not the earth itself, but it's portions of the earth where life can exist. Okay, so obviously it wouldn't be deep down in the core or way up in the stratosphere or anything like that, but this is anywhere on earth where life can actually exist. Okay, so let's kind of review real quick here. This one single frog, obviously, would be a species. Okay, and then let's just move up in order. For population, it would be all the frogs in the particular area. So I'm going to make that this one with the eggs. Okay, community, remember, is still only living things. So I think our choices would be between this one and this one. Obviously, this is just focusing on the living things. So this would be a community. Okay, if you step out a little bit and look at the environment that these organisms are in, this would be an ecosystem here. And then see how these green regions of the earth are highlighted? This is where rainforests are. So that would be an example of biome. Okay, so the one that is not pictured here is biosphere. So where does a number of the same species fit? That would be a population. Okay, many populations in a particular area. This one is not including abiotic things. So I would put this one here with community. Okay, a region of the earth with similar organisms and climate is the biome. One individual organism is a species. Okay, and then populations with all of their abiotic things in a certain area is an ecosystem. Okay, so what I'd like for you guys to do now is work on the Google form that is associated with this particular lesson, and we'll get going into energy flow tomorrow. So as always, if you have any questions or anything, you make sure you email me. Thank you. Have a great day.